Welcome to Below the Skirt with Tamara. Hi, my name is Tamara Green, and I am a pelvic physical therapist, and I help women overcome that uncontrolled bladder, return to that pleasurable sex, and manage the pregnancy symptoms so you can become a postpartum champion. So, me and my girl, as always, Virginia. Her skirt's a little crooked, right? But this is Virginia. And Virginia, she always rolls with me. We roll deep. So you can see that I'm going to be discussing, is your bladder chattering too much? Is that bladder chattering too much? Now, you may say, well, okay, well, Tamara, how do I know is my bladder chattering too much? And I'm when speaking on bladder chatter, it's important to me because that was one of the main reasons why I became a pelvic physical therapist. I became a pelvic physical therapist because of that. So you may be saying, well, how do I know? Well, let me give you a question. What I want you to also do is I want you to take the time and I want you to take a log in your mind, but really it's better to put it on paper because when you put it on paper, you really can see things for what they are. How often are you going to the restroom? A day. So I want you to look at it from the beginning. And this is something I do with my clients in the office. So you get that little free tool from me. But when you wake up in the morning, the first thing we do is what? We go to the restroom. So you can mark that down. Now I want you to go through the whole entire day until the time is right before you go to bed. How many times are you going to the restroom? So you need to tally that. And you need to tally how long it takes you to go to the restroom, or just tally how often. So that's during your wake hours. How often are you going to the restroom in the middle of the night? That's another one. So just to give you a little bit of information to know if your bladder is chattering way too much. It's that combination of, am I going too often, or am I going too often and I'm losing control as I get there? You know, you get that PPP dance and you're like going. Yes. Are you having some control issues when it comes to that? Now, and I'm going to be real with you. I have overcome pelvic dysfunction when it comes to going frequently and having that urgent incontinence where I leak as I'm going to the restroom. But there is times, it's just like that old boyfriend, right? That old boyfriend is trying to creep back up. You put him in the past, but he's still trying to come back for what he knows is good, right? but with that being said, but it's still, he tries to creep up. Or my bladder, she tries to creep up on me. And sometimes I don't give in, but sometimes I do give in because it's like, oh, I gotta go. If not, I'm gonna pee myself, which I'm not going to pee myself. It's just giving in. And it happens periodically. It happens to the point of, well, I just used the restroom, or it happens where I'm to that point where I may not have been sleeping really well that night. And if you don't sleep and you're not in that deep sleep at night, you tend to get up. It's like, okay, those levels have not suppressed itself. So when in the middle of the night, when you should be sleeping, you're still having that sense of I gotta go. If you're not in a deep sleep, that is going to contribute to that sense of frequency that you may have during the night. Now, if you're someone who, like I was, and you had that situation where you use the restroom very frequently during the day, what happens? If you would have, hey, what they say, what goes on in the dark will eventually come to light. Well, what goes on during the day is going to happen at night. It's going to be about the same thing. So I just want you to know that if there's a situation and you don't have any issues with prolapse or anything that is medically deemed why you having to go frequently, then it's behavioral. So you're saying, so what does that mean? Does that mean I'm crazy? Nope. Sure don't. As they say, sure don't. It does not mean you're crazy. It's just something that you have to overcome with your mind. Your mind has to overtake your bladder to say, hey, tame her down, calm down, hold there, right? I don't have to go as bad as I think I can. And I really, truly can hold it longer than I really. And I'll give you an example than I really feel. I'll give you an example. We were somewhere with my daughter, and she's like, oh, mommy, I gotta pee. And my girlfriend was like, she don't have to pee, she already went. And just as a mommy, and I'm like, no, she needs to go, because guess what? If she mess up on herself, who got to clean her up? Me, right? So no, we're gonna go to the bathroom every single time. And I just started realizing that was the issue before I became a pelvic therapist, physical therapist. She could hold it. We started doing something else. She got distracted. She started playing, and guess what? My boo thing did not have to use the restroom for another 45 minutes. She was so fixated on that. And that's what we do. We become fixated that, ooh, I gotta use the restroom. Like, ooh, I gotta go. I'm gonna mess up. It becomes behavioral. It's that component of mind over matter. The mind is saying, hey, I gotta go. But in the matter, I really don't, because the bladder is not really full. Now, if you say, hey, I go sit on the toilet, and when I urinate, I may say, I'm trickling for 2 to 3 seconds, that is not a full bladder. A full bladder takes at least about 8 seconds. And that could give you about 2 to 3 hours, depending upon if you're drinking something that's making you have to go to the restroom more frequently. So I want you to, I'm going to give you a little tip at the end, but the biggest thing is knowing that you can control your bladder. You can tame her down. You don't have to look for the nearest restroom, having that bathroom radar, or doing that just because I want to pee just because before I leave. Whose mother did not teach you that? Before you get your behind in the car, what happens? Everybody's going to the restroom before we get to where we need to get to. And that changes how the mind and the bladder, that timing of that clock of what you really should be doing. Now you may say, so what should I do? What should you do? You use the restroom when it's time to use the restroom. If it's been longer than 2 hours, give yourself permission to use the restroom. But if you're that one that's going to the restroom every 30 minutes, every hour, and you haven't had a diuretic, which is a form of diuretic like coffee, tea, or things that stimulate that bladder, you really need to reassess it. And again, there is help, so you shouldn't have to go that often to the restroom. So your biggest thing is, again, trying to redirect yourself. That is going to help. That is going to help you sustain, but it takes practice. And now, mind you, I've been a pelvic therapist for about 5 years now. With being a pelvic physical therapist for that time, I've been a physical therapist for 15 years. Let's get that right. But being a pelvic physical therapist for about 5 years now, there has been times my skirt has been trying to be flipped up, and I'm going to the restroom. And I start realizing, again, that old boyfriend, that 20/80 rule, that 20 trying to creep back up into what is good. You got to tame it down, and you got to push it away. Because once you start paying attention to that sense that you have to go, then you're going to go. And every time you have to use the restroom, what you're going to do is continually to feed into it, and you're going to want to go. So again, it can be behavioral, it can be corrected. So if you're needing pelvic physical therapies, it will help. But try on your own. If you feel like you're not successful and you're not satisfied with your results, get a pelvic physical therapist near you. If you're in South Carolina, I'm in this area, I can see you virtually, or I can actually see you in my office in the Somerville location. So want you to know that. And if you're outside of South Carolina, I have a course. If you go to belowtheskirtwithtamar.com, leaky faucets, tackling urge incontinence. Again, we know it can be done. It may take about 30 days, but in 30 days, you will be able to overcome, and you will be able to have a change in a quality of life. Giving yourself 30 days. What do they say? It takes 30 days to fix a habit. I don't know if that's true. That's what they say. That's what they said. I didn't say that, but I'm just repeating what they say, right? If that is what it is, if you give yourself 30 days and consistently working on saying, hey, I can overcome this bladder, there's nothing else that's going on, I don't have a form of prolapse that's making me have that frequency and urgency to go, then it can be fixed. But again, you have to recognize there's a problem, and you have to also take that step to say, hey, I don't want to continue with this, because if it's going on now, say 3, 4, 5 years down the road, it's going to be a domino effect in other things, and it's going to definitely affect your quality of life. So let's stop it where it is. Let's push that old boyfriend away that keeps trying to creep up in our lives, and overcome your bladder. Live your best life below the skirt. And that is what I wanted to share with you on this day. So if you have any questions, by all means, you can message me or anything like that. I'll definitely follow back up with you. But thank you so much for tuning in with Below the Skirt with Tamara, as I'm helping you live your best life below the skirt. But not only that, I'm helping you, in the beginning of my tagline, overcome that bladder. So with this, the question is my bladder chattering too much? If it is, you do something about it. It's like Nike. Just do it. But talk to you soon.